In our final federal election video, we thought we'd talk today on how preferences work and why your votes, no matter who you vote for, matter.
The minor parties and One Nation are polling at 19% collectively, and many of the minor parties are right-leaning. You can vote for them with Australia's preferential voting system, and if they don't win, your vote will still then count for the major party that you put highest up in your rankings.
G'day everyone, welcome to the Bothy.
G'day.
We're going to talk about preferences today and why every vote matters and try and dispel a couple of myths, mate.
Well, I never knew any of this, mate. I thought if the party says they're giving their preference to somebody, then that's who the preference goes to, regardless of who I put down. So it was actually a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah, well, yeah, for a lot of us, yeah. So the two myths we want to dispel today is that there's no such thing as a wasted vote. You always hear people say, oh, don't vote for the Shooters Party or the Fix Party or the Marijuana Party because you're wasting your vote. But you're actually not, because the way our system in Australia works is it's preferential or by preferences. So you vote one Shooter Party and then you vote two, whoever you vote, Sex Party, then you vote three, Marijuana Party, four, Liberal, five, Labor. And as parties get knocked out of the votes and they get the least amount of votes, then your preference goes to the party that is still in the running. So your second vote becomes your first vote. Your third vote becomes your first vote as the rounds go on, until someone's got more than 50%. So really, if you're voting for a minor party, your actual most important number is your last. To make sure that that's the party you don't want in. So there's no such thing as a wasted vote. If you want to vote for One Nation, even though it's unlikely that they're going to get in, it's not a wasted vote, because whoever you deem you're giving your preference to will pick the vote up in the next round once One Nation are out. Which brings us to the second myth, and the second myth is you hear parties saying we're giving our preference to they're not giving their preferences to anyone. We choose our preferences. So all those forms that you see at voting day, wherever you go to vote, they hand you a form and they say, right, vote in this order. That's the order they want you to vote in. But they don't control where your preferences
that's
go.
their own personal preference.
So, if you decide to vote for One Nation and One Nation gives you their form and their second is People First Party or Family First Party or whatever it is, then they're hoping that you follow that. But at the end of the day, once you get in the booth, you select One Nation first, and if you decide to select the Greens second, then the Greens get your preference as second. Don't do that. Because the Greens were shit. That's just our personal opinion. So, I thought I'd dispel those myths. There is no such thing as a wasted vote, and no party can dictate where the preferences go. It's your vote that counts.
That makes more sense.
So how does it work?
Hopefully this video will help you to explain how preferences work at the Australian federal election. So as you can see on the left-hand side, this is our ballot paper, and we've voted 1 for orange through to 5 for the pinks. And the first round of counting has now been completed, and everybody's first preferences are recorded. So in this example, you can see that the pink party are on 29, the white is on 27, the blue is on 18, the yellow is on 15, and the orange is on 11% of the votes. That is everybody's first preferences. What happens from here is that the party with the least amount of votes, which is the orange party with 11%, is removed from counting for the second round. Those that voted for the orange party now have their second preference taken into account. So you can see now that yellow has remained on 15, pink has increased to 33, blue has gone to 21, and white has gone to 31. And this is because if you voted as your second preference pink, then that has gone up. You'll see that what we did is we voted our second preference as blue. So now that our orange team is out, our vote effectively becomes for the blue party, and the blue party's vote has increased. After the second round is completed, you see that the yellow party now has the least amount of votes and is removed from the third round. So as we go into the third round, their preferences are now split between the three parties that remain. So in our case, when we voted for the blue, so they're still in, so they still have our vote. Pink has 38, blue has 26% of the vote, and white has 36% of the vote. And now we move to a fourth round. In the fourth round, because blue had the least amount of votes, they are removed, and now it's between the pink and the white to see who gets the vote. You can see there that we have given white our fourth preference and pink our fifth, which means white effectively now gets our vote. And it looks like a few people have done that because in this example, white have now passed pink and have been elected into power. They're now the winner of the election for the next 3 years. Hopefully this has helped you to understand a little bit about preference voting.
So let's say there's 8 parties on the ballot form. You vote from 1 to 8. And if you vote for a minority party and they get knocked out in the first round, whoever gets the least amount of votes gets knocked out. Right. Then the second round is done, and now it's only 7 parties left. And whoever got the second preference on your party that's been knocked out's vote, that then goes as your first vote.
Oh, so that gets counted?
Gets counted.
For
everybody's vote gets counted.
All right.
Yep. So now there's 7 parties, and you'll see and how people eventually will get to 50%. Hopefully, otherwise we've got a minority party, a minority victory, and we don't want that. But it might take 3 or 4 rounds for one party in Australia to get to 50%. And I think it will this year. It looks like whoever wins that first vote will be in the mid-30s, somewhere around there. And then they're going to rely on those preference votes as party gets knocked out.
I mean, Labour are going to once again turn to Greens to bail them out, aren't they?
Well, what they'll be hoping for is the people that vote Greens, the people that vote Green will put Labor as their second vote, as their preference. So, that way, once the Greens are knocked out, you'd think the Greens will probably be the third last party out, so they'll be right there in the final 3.
You said something before, we don't want a minority.
No, so if somebody doesn't get to 50%, then we could have a problem. You don't want a minority government where you're relying on 2 parties to have to form a partnership like Labor and the Greens.
Well, that's what's happened now.
Well, it's not quite that way. Labor have got a very slight majority. You don't want them having to rely on that.
Well, I was looking at Poland's, the way they do it, and they are all minority parties. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
And they end up forming alliances with parties that have got similar ideas.
Yeah.
Seems like a great idea. My son seems to think it's a good idea, and he loves politics.
I see the benefits, but I also see the problems. So you end up with a situation like you've got in Germany, where you've got the party that's ended up in power, the party that came second, which is the far right or right wing,
GD something.
Yep, they've been blocked out. No negotiation, because they've got enough other parties so they can overrule that party. So now they don't get a say at all, even though they came second in the election. I'm not sure that that's what we would want.
Yeah, unfortunately, they have some real dodgy people in there. Yeah. I mean, they're saying, no, we don't, not like that.
No,
they have got some real fascists in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you really don't want a fascist.
You don't, but you'd like them to have a say in something.
True.
And you look at the immigration problems Germany's got and some of the woke issues that Germany's got, no real different to some of the woke issues we've got here, and in other places in the world, but you'd like them to at least have a say. But I think if we can stick to one Prime Minister ruling one party, then we can put up with that for 3 years and then we go again.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing that people may not be aware of is how it's voted for in the Senate. Only 50% of the Senate goes up at every election. So when a senator is voted in, they're actually voted in for 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
And then only half of them go up every second year. So that second form that you fill in, that's 1 to 3 million, but we always only put 1. Yeah, sometimes you're not necessarily voting for who you think you're voting for. So just be mindful of that. So that's how preferences work. As I said, there will have been, you will have watched it by now, a video on how, as parties get knocked out, their votes get redistributed. So hopefully that has helped. And if anybody's got any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll ignore them until after the election because we won't be able to answer it. No, we'll do our best. So thanks for joining us. Hopefully that helped a few people, just like it's helped us. We've learned something through this election period. Old dogs learning new tricks. Thanks for joining us.
Good on you guys.
See ya.
See ya.